grant of a new premises licence for Morrison's store and petrol filling station at Albion Way. There's been some difficulty with councillors receiving black and white plans, but I think all councillors have now received a copy with a red line plan on it, and that shows the areas seeking to be licensed in respect of sale supply of alcohol off the premises only for consumption and late night refreshment are the effect of the site in its entirety. So the store itself, the car park, vegetation and so on. The red line goes around the boundary of the site. As to representations, there are no representations from the responsible authorities. There was some communication with the police, and members will be aware as to Appendix B that a condition has been suggested and has been agreed by the applicant. So no representations from Public Protection, Fire Officer, Planning Officer, or Area Child Protection Committee, Trading Standards, or Primary Care Trust. This matter is before you today because there is one relevant representation from a local councillor who is joining us today, which is useful. Thank you. When you consider this application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives, you'll give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote the licensing objectives, representations presented, evidence heard today, Section 182 statutory guidance, and the Council's own statement of licensing policy. Options to grant the application as asked, to modify the conditions of any license that you do grant by altering, omitting, or adding to them, reject the whole or part of the application, refuse to accept the proposed designated premises supervisor. And any decision you do take, not because it's simply desirable, that's not acceptable, it must be appropriate in order to promote the licensing objectives. Chair, I'm scrolling as I don't have a paper copy. I do have an electronic copy.
Okay, thank you, David.
We're looking for, just finishing off, late night refreshment, 2300 to 2400 hours. As you know, those hours of operation need a premises license for sale, supply, hot food or drink, 2300 to 0500 hours. And if you're going to ask for that licensable activity within those time periods, then application needs to be made. And lastly, sale, supply of alcohol, 0600 to 2400 hours on all days, off the premises only. And the operating schedule is with the papers proposed. The opening hours match the proposed hours for the sale supply of alcohol. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll hear from the applicant and agent now. Mr. Taylor, are you going to present for the applicant today?
Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning, Chair. Yes, I will. My name is Taylor, Richard Taylor. I'm a solicitor for Morrison's. Been acting for Morrison's now since about 2007, doing all of the license work. I have with me George Zormelo, who is Morrison's National Licensing Manager. But the way we'll do it is I will make the submissions. Obviously, if you've got any questions, then we're both available to answer those. Would you like me to start?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Well, I'll deal with the application, members of the committee, in three parts, if I may. The first part will just be to introduce the application, the applicant, and the reasons for the application. The second will be just to explain the measures that we take to promote the licensing objectives. And the third is just to comment on the issues that I've already discussed with Councillor Graham and which will come up today. So first part, introduction of the application and the applicant. Well, it's Morrison's. You know Morrison's. Morrison's have been trading in this location for a number of years, and the store has a premises license. Already, the store has a premises license for exactly the same hours that we're seeking at the moment, But what we're seeking to do here is to incorporate the petrol filling station into the licensed area of the store. It's effectively a variation to add the petrol filling station into the licensed area, and that would allow the petrol filling station to be used for both the display and sale of alcohol. It's not at the moment. All display and sale happens within the store itself. Now, if this is granted, then the existing license, which just covers the store, will be surrendered. And the application isn't unique. It's one of about 70 that's being made in England and Wales, where petrol filling stations sit within the car park. And it follows advice from Philip Colvin, the QC, who I'm sure you've all come across, that this is a perfectly lawful and legal thing to do. So the hours sought are the same as the current premises license. The conditions offered are the same as the current premises license. And the reason for the application is that since coronavirus hit and impacted all of our lives, the company has seen a significant increase in grocery shopping in the petrol filling stations. People obviously just wanting to shop in a smaller environment. People are moving towards smaller shops. And all the company wants to be able to do is sell a bottle of wine or a pack of beers with ready meals groceries that are already available to purchase in the petrol filling station. And just to put some context to this, in the last year, 47,000 customers used the petrol filling station simply as a convenience store. Another 36,000, I'm rounding the figures, but I've got them exactly in front of me, use them both for fuel and for convenience store shopping. So we've got 83,000 customers a year, about 1,600 customers a week, using that petrol filling station simply as a convenience store. I said this isn't unusual. Morrisons operates about 530 stores, about 150 petrol filling stations with licenses, and they all operate without any difficulty whatsoever. The company's a responsible operator. I've just said I've been acting for them for almost 15 years. The company has never been the subject of review proceedings under Licensing Act 2003, nor has it been prosecuted for any offence under the Act. And that's testament to the policies and procedures that are in place and the steps that Morrisons takes to promote the licensing objectives. Just before we move to a discussion about what we do to promote the licensing objectives, let me just say this. We've spoken to the police about this. We've spoken to the management on site about this. This store trades without any difficulty whatsoever. It has an excellent relationship with the management on site have an excellent relationship with the authorities, and the petrol filling station trades without any difficulties whatsoever. So what I'll do now, moving to part two, if you like, I'll talk about the licensing objectives, but I'll concentrate on the petrol filling station because that's effectively the new bit of this application. So what do we do to promote the licensing objectives? Well, across the site, there is a full digital CCTV system that's in the petrol filling station. Images are retained for a minimum period of 28 days, made available to the police or responsible authorities on request. As far as the petrol filling station is concerned, the counter is screened for security purposes. There's a number of covert and overt security measures that we take, but there are panic buttons if need be, across all of Morrisons petrol filling stations, as there are in many shops around the country. There is a direct link to the main store. All staff whose jobs involves alcohol sales in the petrol filling station are required to be personal license holders. Morrisons never mans petrol filling, never single mans petrol filling stations which are open for the sale of alcohol. Now, that's a chain that would just cause a change to the way that this operates at the moment. At the moment, this petrol filling station is single manned first thing in the morning and later in the evening. If it's selling alcohol, it wouldn't be single manned. Morrisons wouldn't rota single manning at all in those circumstances. Obviously, Morrisons has its own training. That training is refreshed regularly. The store and the petrol filling station operates the same Challenge 25 scheme. Till prompts alert cashiers whenever an age-restricted product is sold, and the cashier is then required to go through his or her training with regard to identification, that it will be accepted and what won't be. There is an electronic refusals log, and Morrison's engages the services of independent test purchasers, independent firms who send in 18, 19, 20-year-olds to make alcohol purchases. And the purpose of that is to check that these people are challenged. And it's a disciplinary offence potentially if they're not challenged. Back to the petrol filling station. All spirits and high value product is displayed behind the counter. No single cans of alcohol are sold, and the business as a whole doesn't sell strong white ciders, the sort of thing that's associated with street drinking. And the effect of this is that the store trades without problem, and indeed the petrol filling stations that Morrison's has across the country trade without any difficulty whatsoever. David mentioned earlier that we've had some discussions with Michelle Bartram at the police, and that's correct. And the condition didn't come from Michelle, it came from us. We suggested the condition. She said, look, there may be concerns about single manning, or not about single manning, there may be some concerns about the security of the petrol filling station. And so, what are you going to do? And I said, well, we risk assess for security purposes. And she said, well, offer us a condition and that's fine with us. So that's exactly what we did. And it's important to say there is nothing more important to Morrison's than the security of its colleagues and of the customers. So, moving then on to the final bit of my presentation, the issues raised in the representation. And so we need just to look at the representation against the backdrop that none of the responsible authorities have any objection or representations to what we're proposing here. And especially given the nature of Councillor Graham's representation, we need to be cognizant of the fact that the police do not object to this application. Spoken to Councillor Graham, very, very grateful to Councillor Graham for her time on the phone. We exchanged a lot of, exchanged a lot of emails. We had conversations, and Leslie's concerns are understandable. Wherever these premises may be, we understand that Leslie is concerned. Sorry, Councillor Graham, I do beg your pardon. We are concerned, Councillor Graham is concerned about what might happen. Well, we've spoken to the store management. There's very little walk-up trade to the petrol filling station at all. And as Leslie said, this isn't a store that's surrounded by densely populated, it's not surrounded by housing. We've got obviously Carrow Road on one side, railway station on the other. Councillor Graham's concerns with regards to the people working in the petrol filling station, I think we got through that, and we got to a point where Councillor Graham told me that she would withdraw her representation if the petrol filling station stopped selling alcohol when the store closed. Well, we can't agree to that because we want the petrol filling station to be open for convenience shopping, and convenience shopping needs to be convenient. Furthermore, of course, the store has to close at 4 o'clock on a Sunday, and that would mean closing or stopping alcohol sales in the petrol filling station at 4 o'clock on a Sunday, and without any input from the police, without any concerns from the police. That's not something we're prepared to do. So we trade until 10:30 at the moment on Mondays to Saturdays in the petrol filling station. We trade until 9 o'clock on Sundays, which is 5 hours longer than the store. And all we want to do, and I'm getting to the end because I'm starting to repeat myself, is want to be able to provide convenience shopping. And if somebody wants to buy a bottle of wine with their ready meal or a pack of beers, then why not? And I think the final thing for me to say is, we're here for any questions at all. I appreciate Councillor Graham's concerns, but let's be very, very clear. Those are not shared by the police. So that's it from me, Chair. I have George with me if you have any questions. Sorry, just one thing. The only thing we're seeking to license here is the store and the petrol filling station. There can be no suggestion that there's going to be any set off sales from the car park area at all. It's just the store, just the petrol filling station. I appreciate it's a little bit complicated with the red line appearing to go around the store. We can make that very, very clear from the outset that there'll be no sales in the car park. I hope that clarifies things. I hope that answers any questions that you may have had. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We welcome Maxine Fuller from the licensing department. Okay, thank you. So my first question, and then we'll ask, we'll turn to councillors, and we'll talk to Councillor Graham as well. So my first question is about the licensable area. You've just stated that there's no plans to have off sales in any other areas except the petrol station and the store. Why then have you applied for the entire area, the entire footprint of your car park and surrounding areas?
Well, the answer was that, well, that red line just goes around the site. If you have a look at the plans, I don't know if they're blown up. There are also red lines around both the store and the petrol filling station. And yes, I mean, there is a red line around the site. If it makes it easier for you, I can undertake to file an amended plan without that red line around the site. Or we're quite happy to have a condition that alcohol sales will only take place from the store or from the petrol filling station. Just to be clear, there has never been an intention to sell from the car park.
Okay. Right. Okay, David. From a legal point of view, we've had an offer there to amend either the application or to have a condition. Do you need to follow up on that?
I'm grateful, Chair. I mean, very quickly, perhaps an amended application would be sensible. I think we've had, unfortunately, a lot of problems with the plans in this case. I'm going to put myself back on video, but if I get to freeze, I'll take myself off. So if I've got it, if I understand matters correctly, there's an application for the entire site for late night refreshment, 2300 to 2400, as no one's mentioned that yet.
Right, the application for the application, let's just be very, very clear about this. And this is confused by a red line which appears around the whole site. And I apologize for that. The application is purely for alcohol sales, late night refreshment, you're absolutely right, and opening from the store and from the petrol filling station. We don't need an amended application. I can file an amended plan today if you're minded to grant the application. That's absolutely fine. And that would remove the red line from the site. So it's very, very clear. As far as
helpful, thank you.
As far as late night refreshment is concerned, late night refreshment, as you said, David, is required to sell hot food or drink after 11 p.m. There is no suggestion we're opening a cafe. No suggestion well, there is a cafe, but no suggestion it will be open. This is purely to allow the sale of coffee. Because of course there is coffee available in the petrol filling station, there is coffee available in the store. There is also bakery and hot food available within the store. There is a question always as to whether or not that would still be hot at 11 o'clock and trigger this, but we include it so that we're absolutely safe. But the late night refreshment covers the sale of coffee, nothing more than that.
So very easy, and I think, just as you say, confusion caused by a slightly unfortunate red line and some difficult plans. But the application for those two licensable activities is just the store, just the petrol filling station. It's not the car park, the landscaping, or all the rest of that.
No, it's that. I mean, that red line simply denotes the site.
Lovely.
It shouldn't be there. And I've got to say, I hadn't even spotted it until it was raised earlier.
Clarification done. That's lovely. Thank you. If you could send an amended plan with those two licensable sort areas clearly marked, that would be great. Yes. But I think everybody, subject to your chair's view, now understands the boundaries of the application.
Yes, thank you. That's noted by the committee. Okay, The other question I had was, you talked about your opening hours. Currently the store closes at 10, I believe.
Yep.
And you stated the petrol station at 10:30 weekdays and 9 o'clock on Sundays, also 10:30 on Saturday. Are there any plans currently to change those hours?
Not at the moment, no. I mean, we have 6 till midnight. We extend, which gives us the flexibility to extend perhaps busy Christmas, busy periods, festive, run up to Christmas, that sort of thing. And we do trade later in those periods. And, at least half of the Morrison's estate has hours of 6 till 10. Those that don't have 6 till midnight, sorry. Those that don't have 24-hour license. And yeah, it just affords us the flexibility. The current store opening hours, and there's no plans to change, 6 till 10 Mondays to Saturday and 10 till 4 on a Sunday. Current petrol filling station hours, 6 till 10:30 Mondays to Saturdays, 8 till 9 on Sundays. No plans to change those, but as I say, we're seeking the license till midnight because it gives us the flexibility to trade longer as and when there's demand for it.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back with further questions shortly. In the meantime, other councillors, please. I saw Councillor Maxwell first, and then we'll have Councillor Sands.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask a question about safety. In the filling station, do you have more than one door so that there could be an escape route should trouble start up? I'm sorry about this, but we've got such small plans. I really can't see.
Right, I have a much bigger plan, but that's the problem with doing things electronically.
Yeah.
The answer from a safety perspective is there is one door in one door. Sorry, there is one door, but of course, from a staff perspective, they're behind a screen.
Yes, but if they're trapped behind that screen, can they get out?
Well, if they're trapped behind the screen, the panic buttons are behind the screen as well, and that was when assistance is sought. But
the only way out is through the coming out from behind the screens.
Yes.
It just slightly worried in certain areas things have been happening. And I mean, obviously you've been operating with it as it is, but is it possible you consider an escape route?
Well, that's a significant expense, and that's the sort of thing we discussed with the police. If the police wanted us to do something like that, and the advice from the police was do it, then of course that's something we would do. And it's all about risk. It's all about risk assessment.
Yeah. What did they say when you discussed it with them?
The police said, we are quite happy. We have no concerns about what you're seeking to do here. There may be some concerns from certain councillors with regard to single manning. What we suggest you do is you offer a condition about risk assessing the need for, risk assessing security provision.
Yeah. That was the second question. Is it always single manned, or have you got...
No, sorry. And I apologise if this wasn't clear. At the moment, the petrol filling station is from time to time single manned. If Morrison's displays and sells alcohol from any of its petrol filling stations, we never rota single manning at all. So no, it's extra security as much as anything. And again, it just makes sense. I was surprised that the petrol filling station was ever single manned, to be honest, but it was. But from a risk perspective, where alcohol is sold, not single manned.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Sands, please.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, Richard, you consistently said that alcohol will be sold, and gave the example several times of when people are buying a ready meal and they want something to drink with their ready meal. Can you see a situation whereby people won't be buying that ready meal, but will just be going in that hour to buy alcohol? I'm assuming that the alcohol isn't linked to buying a ready meal, although you didn't mention hot meals.
No. So if somebody wants a bottle of wine and wants to drive to the simply to nip in to the petrol filling station and buy a bottle of wine, absolutely fine. Yes, of course. And there are many people, and we've seen it through the pandemic, who would much rather shop in a smaller environment than go into a big store. And a lot of that is the driver. Here, we've seen an increase in convenience shopping. Of course, yeah, if somebody wants to, needs a bottle of wine, nobody needs a bottle of wine. If somebody would like a bottle of wine on their way home, nip in, buy it, absolutely no problem at all.
Okay, so
what I will say, and I do beg your pardon, obviously the range in the petrol filling station is far, far smaller. There may only be a choice of, I don't know, half a dozen whites, half a dozen reds, and a couple of fizzes, and a very limited selection of beer or spirits. Obviously, spirits are all behind the counter.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because that leads me to the next question. What kind of alcohol is actually going to be offered, if you know, and is there any strong alcohol? And as you know, that there are stronger beers, there are stronger drinks that you can buy that come under the alcohol banner. So what exactly is Morrison's going to offer in the way of alcohol?
Well, the range within the petrol filling station will be obviously a much smaller range, as I've just said. If the question is, do you sell high strength, cheap white ciders? The answer is no. We don't do that as a business, and therefore they wouldn't be. They're not in the main store at the moment. If your answer is, do you sell premium craft beers at premium prices, which may be slightly stronger, then the answer is, in the store, likely. In the petrol filling station, unlikely. Again, we're in a risk situation here.
Okay, my third question is, you want to have across the board a license that goes to midnight. Okay, yep. So that's including the supermarket, including the petrol station, but you're only going to use that license on specific times of the year. And you cited Christmas as being an example. There may be some others. Why is it you feel you need to have this license in place for the entire time instead of applying for a specific license for specific times like Christmas?
Because what we're doing is effectively varying the existing premises license. We've already got 6 till midnight, and there's no problem with that whatsoever. So what we're applying to do is effectively mirror what we've got at the moment, but extend it as far as the petrol filling station. Issues of need, of course, as far as alcohol licensing is concerned, disappeared in 1998 with the advent of the Justices Clerk Society Good Practice Guide. So there is never a need for anyone ever to sell alcohol. But it's not a consideration that we need to be making today. The question is, would the sale of alcohol at any of these times be inconsistent with the licensing objectives, bearing in mind the evidence? And that's very, very important. That's in front of us.
Can I please correct you there? I didn't query whether there was a need for alcohol or whether there was a need for people to have alcohol. Need didn't come into my question at all.
You were sorry. I thought the question was, do you need those hours? And the answer then is yes, because we need the flexibility for them.
Okay. But you see, your answer to my interpretation came more about whether people's need for alcohol. Okay.
I apologise for that.
Okay. My question was a bit more specific than that. It was, if you can see only requiring, shall we say, instead of need, requiring those extended hours for selling alcohol in very specific small amounts of time of the year, okay, how is it that you are applying for a license that goes 24/7, 365 days of the year, instead of saying, okay, at Christmas, we just need to apply to the City Hall for a license to sell alcohol for longer hours? You see, what we've got here is very broad acres, isn't it? It's the whole year. And I'm just curious as to why you would feel the need to have such a broad license when I know you can get temporary licenses from City Hall.
No, and it's a very, very good question. So the license that we have at the moment allows us to sell alcohol and open from 6 in the morning until midnight every day.
Yep.
So what we're seeking is effectively to extend the area for the license through to the petrol filling station. Why do we need it? Well, I've said flexibility, and the second question is probably future proofing. So who knows where demand will go? We saw over the pandemic certain supermarkets, not necessarily this one, opening later, opening longer to accommodate customers. As far as temporary event notices are concerned, of course, there's a limit on temporary event notices of 499 people, including staff. And if you're in a busy period, like the run up to Christmas, you may well have 100 and odd staff on, and therefore you couldn't meet your capacity figures on the basis of a temporary event notice. It's about flexibility, Councillor.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, I think we'll have some more questions shortly, but first we'll hear from Councillor Graham, who's the principal and only objector, actually. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. I am the only objector, but I'm speaking on behalf of all the Thorpe Hamlet councillors.
Councillor, just before you start, you submitted a objection that objection is on page 28 of our pack. With your presentation today, or your objection, you need to stick to the points that you made in that objection, please. You're speaking on behalf of yourself in this context, please.
Okay, the point in my objection is not any query about Morrison's managing their sites well. I know they do that. It's my local supermarket. I know the area well. My concern is for the areas roundabouts which go beyond the CCTV, beyond the good management and beyond the scope of that good management of the actual site. But because of where it is, it's quite isolated. It's surrounded by a retail park which is empty when it's shut. It's got the football stadium on one side, the river on another side, a main road on another side, and gated communities on the fourth side. There's no overlooking. There's nowhere to run to should you be harassed. After Sarah Everard, half the population was shocked to hear that the other half always thinks about what will I do if I'm harassed, attacked, or carries your keys in your hands, makes provision, thinks about your personal safety on your way home. So in the middle of this deserted desert, we have the garage is the only thing that's open. But it lies between the city centre on the one hand and a very densely populated area from Carrow Road to Lawrence and Scott, with hundreds of flats and a couple of hundred houses. I've suggested a condition that alcohol sales cease when the store closes, because while the store closes, it's not a problem. Selling hot meals, it's not a problem, but I don't think you are selling hot meals. I almost took an implication from what Mr. Taylor said, was that it's a bottle of wine with your ready meal, but actually you're not selling ready meals. And the example is always a bottle of wine with your dinner, rather than a can of whatever to drink on the streets and probably leave on the streets. So I wonder if a reasonable compromise might be stop selling alcohol at 10 o'clock every day, because I mean, you've addressed my concern by saying there'll be no lone working while alcohol's sold, and I'm happy with that. Your concern is lost alcohol sales on when you shut early. So if it were to be 10 o'clock, I mean, I would prefer it if alcohol sales stopped when the store shut, But if it's stopped at 10 o'clock every day, then you'd get most of your alcohol sales on Saturdays and Sundays without making the area more dangerous between 10 and midnight.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Taylor, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you. Well, first things first, thank you, Councillor Graham. I used the example of a bottle of wine with a ready meal, but I did also say, you know, you can go in and buy a bottle of wine, a pack of beers, whatever it is. What we don't do, and what you just said we might be doing, is sell single cans. We don't do that from petrol filling stations, so there's no prospect of that happening. As far as stopping selling whilst the store, well, whilst the petrol filling station is open for other sales, that causes difficulties with the till system, to be honest. There is a till block that can be put on, but only in certain circumstances. What we're seeking is the ability to be able to sell alcohol at all hours that petrol filling station is open. And that's what we do throughout the country. And as I said before, we've never been reviewed on the basis under Licensing Act 2003. There's never been a prosecution, and all of that is because all of the licensed petrol filling stations that Morrison's operate without any difficulty whatsoever.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Graham. Do you wish to ask any more questions of the applicant, please?
Yeah. One is, what's the big deal about the not selling single cans? I mean, you know, okay, so you don't buy a single can, you buy a 4-pack or a 6-pack or whatever. There will still be people who drink it by the river and leave the cans there. There will still be people who drink it on the streets because nobody's looking. You know, what do you say to that? You know, you know, if you want to be, if you don't have a problem with a new danger spot in my community, then you'll give this license as applied for. If you care about those things, then you won't have that dark patch and create another no-go area between 10 and midnight when there's no other footfall. I mean, actually, if you had a cafe, you've said you wouldn't have a cafe. Well, actually, if you had a cafe, there'd be footfall, and I'd be happy with that. It's the empty, deserted streets and the people drinking on them and the people who have to go home past them, because, you know, that's your route home.
Okay, thank you. The committee should note these objections. We have, and clearly we know about, as councillors, we know about some problems in the area, and Councillor Graham has reported to these before. However, we should also note that the licence applicant isn't responsible for people after they leave the premises, but we do need to take into account of how much additional issues a new license here or an extended license here may create. Also, the committee should note that the police have not objected to this, but also that there are other places where people can buy alcohol in the area. I believe there's a Tesco's not too far away on Prince of Wales Road. Okay, Mr. Taylor, do you want to just respond to that last point from Councillor Graham?
Sorry, am I responding to the last point, or am I making a closing statement? I'm sorry.
Just respond to Councillor Graham, please.
Well, I mean, the way Morrison's manages its business is a matter for Morrison's. The business took the decision some time ago to not to sell single cans, to stop people street drinking. Of course, if somebody has the money to go in and buy, you know, 4, 6, 24, then yes, you're absolutely right, that could happen. But what we've seen nationally is street drinkers seeking high strength single cans, and that's not what we do, because that's not what we want in the area. for ourselves. You know, the company is a responsible retailer, and I'm sorry, I keep saying it, and it operates these premises without any difficulty whatsoever. You're absolutely right. There are other premises elsewhere for where alcohol is available, and I'm not here to speak for them at all. We've heard Councillor Graham talk about this desert where alcohol would be able, and we're creating a danger spot. Again, I'll come back to it, and I will say it in my closing again. These are concerns that are not shared by the experts, by the police.
Just to add to that quickly, so we train our colleagues to spot intoxicated customers that come in. So if a customer comes in and they look drunk, our colleagues are trained to spot those and then prevent the sales to them. In terms of this particular store, so just looking at the main store, so the colleagues would come from the main store. The colleagues that work in a petrol filling station will come from the main store. Looking at their test purchase performance, so they've passed their last 4 test purchases. So they've got a strong level of compliance in that particular store. And then just to address one of those concerns about whether the store, whether the PFS colleagues will be safe, they have a direct link to the store manager at all times. So there's a duty manager who works at all times, and then the PFS colleagues have a direct link to them at any point at all in the day. So if there's any issues at all they just need to do is just press a button and then they'll get direct access to them as well.
And I apologise that I didn't say, irrespective of the store being closed to customers, it is manned 24 hours a day.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Graham, one final chance to ask any further questions or make a statement for us. But before we do that, actually, I just have a question for you. Can you explain why you think that this licence will create a problem, following what we've heard from Richard Taylor regarding the type of customers that they're expecting? What is your experience of the area that makes you believe that a direct result of granting this licence will create the issue that you've described?
Well, if you go to Tesco's for your alcohol, you're in a place where there's footfall. It's not an isolated place. It's fine. If in this area, it's so deserted, there's nowhere to run to. So my question would be, well, if you're walking home late at night and you have a problem, can you run into Morrison's, knock on the door and say, help me, I've got a problem? I'm assuming that door is locked. And if it isn't, and there's some sort of escape route there, I guess that would help a little bit. Another question is, would you be willing to compromise on 10 p.m. every day so you don't lose your Sunday sales? And the experience that I bring is local knowledge of who's around and what time of day. And generally, it's not the police. Sometimes it is. Public nuisance includes litter. You may remember that when Morrison's did away with the £1 deposit on a trolley, lots of
Sorry, are we still on Appendix C, the representation, or are we now just introducing new things, Chair? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
It is a point. Councillor Graham, you should stick to your original objection, please.
Okay, my original objection is about the area that goes beyond the scope of what Morrison's can do. I mean, I'm not doubting the professionalism and the good management of Morrison's. I'm looking at the surrounding areas which are beyond the scope of their good management.
We understand that.
Okay, thank you. That's noted by the committee. Okay, any further questions from councillors? I just have one further question. At the beginning of your presentation, Mr. Taylor, you described with some figures how many attendees you have, how many customers you have at the petrol station currently, a total of 83,000. Just for context, how does that compare with customers who just buy petrol?
If you just forgive me, I have things just off to my right here. I have the numbers that were sent to me this morning, just bear with me. There they are. So the main store served 1,706,392 customer baskets. That's how many transactions went through the main store. The petrol filling station had 241,486 fuel only transactions, 46,987 non-fuel only, so that's the 47,000 convenience store, pure convenience store customers, if you like, and then 35,833 who bought both fuel and convenience store goods. So that's the 35,833 plus the 46,987, which I totted up to be around and about 83,000. That's over the year. So that's about 16, averages out at about 1,600 convenience store customers a week.
Okay, thank you very much. Interesting statistics. Okay, the final question I have, and this is perhaps for David as well, as we're considering an application for the entire store and the petrol station. We've only heard so far about the petrol station. Given that there's a license in place, do we need to explore the application for the main store as well in this hearing?
Chair, as one's there already, there would be little practical point in doing so. I would like to go through the matters, occasional matters raised by the applicant to see whether these are offered conditions to be added to the intended operating schedule, which is a little sparse in places at the moment, or whether they are more how the business is intending to run and not offered conditions. And that may cover some of your issues.
Well, if I can just help with that, everything that is offered as part of the operating schedule is a straight cut and paste off the current premises license.
Right. It was such things as not selling single cans.
Sorry. So I mean, if you wanted conditions about that, then we could discuss whether or not conditions. I mean, what I said was we don't sell single cans. There's been no request from anybody for a condition like that. And what I was doing is I was trying to illustrate how Morrison's operates to ensure that the licensing objectives are promoted. I certainly wasn't offering it as a condition. There's no need, we do it already.
It would just so the councillors know what is being offered. What is fixed.
I wasn't offering it as a condition.
Mm-hmm.
What we're suggesting are the conditions that appear in the operating plan, which are those that are on the license already, plus the additional conditions sought by the police. Everything else was an illustration, I suppose, of what we do. Now it's up to the committee if they want to impose conditions. But there would need to be an evidential basis for the imposition of those conditions, which would need to be appropriate and proportionate, given the representations that had been received.
You've got some experienced councillors.
I'm sure, and you're an experienced gentleman, gentleman, David. I've met you before.
It was just that's useful. Thank you. Yeah. So those are the matters beyond what's written down on the papers, and the police matter are illustrations of what you do at the moment and how you intend to proceed, but they're not to be written down on the operating schedule at the moment.
No.
That's helpful. Thank you. Stops me going through a list. Chair, happy to give bit of basic legal advice on the 182 statutory guidance, perhaps after closing speeches, or I can do it now, your choice.
Please go through it now.
It was simply that your relevant representation, your objector, has noted on a number of occasions her concern is not the site, and she said that Morrison's managed the site well. She is concerned regarding the areas beyond their control. And just to flag the section 182 guidance that says the behaviour of members of the public once outside the immediate environs of the premises as a matter of personal responsibility by the public, and not a matter to be expected to be controlled by the premises licence holder.
Okay, thank you. Just before we carry on, I saw Councillor Graham indicating. Councillor Graham, please.
Thank you. It's not about blame, it's about impact beyond the site. And impact is within the licensing objectives, and I hope will be taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. We have clearly with any application, there's a potential for it to have an impact on the local environment. So we as a committee have to consider whether the applicant has mitigated that potential for issues with the licensing objectives. Okay, David, please. David, you're currently muted.
Once per committee, Chair, generally, I try and keep it down to that. I believe the applicant will cover Councillor Graham point in closing. I don't believe it's necessary for me to address you further unless you wish me to do so.
Okay, thank you. Right, any further questions from anybody? Councillor Sands, please.
Yes, this is to Richard Taylor. This level of licensing, as you said, has been replicated across the country with other stores. And my question is about public safety within the actual petrol station. So that comes under licensing, not focusing at the moment on the outside. You said that when someone comes to buy alcohol, and we've all had this experience, so you go to the checkout and it flags up whether or not you're old enough to buy it. Okay, that will happen. What happens then if someone is required to show ID? What happens? I mean, you can build upon the answer from the other places around the country that are already selling alcohol, but what happens when a person is asked to supply ID, they refuse, and quite possibly it kicks off? What has been the experience is what I want to know.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm copying David. So the experience is that it happens occasionally, but fortunately very, very infrequently. Now, this petrol filling station already needs to seek identification for certain age-restricted products, lottery tickets, cigarettes, and it does so without any difficulty whatsoever. As we said, there is a till prompt on all age-restricted products, and the staff have training in conflict management. If it kicks off, to use your phraseology, then the staff on site will do their best to calm it down. There is a panic button to hit. Security can come from the store, and everything is just extinguished as quickly as it possibly can be. Very, very fortunately, and trading 150 odd petrol filling stations, it's not an issue. It hasn't been an issue in the past. And all I can draw upon is our experience.
So am I to understand, or we are to understand then, that security is on site 24 hours, is that correct?
Yes, well, the store is manned 24 hours a day. And when the panic button is hit, then that alerts people within the store to come over to the petrol filling station. Whether or not they are employed as security guards, and security guarding is a different risk assessment and something that we talk about with the police.
So, for instance, okay, the store's closed, so Morrison store's closed. Something, as I said, use my phraseology, kicks off. That's not very teachery of me at all. Normally a little clearer with my words than that when I'm teaching. But if it kicks off in the store, who is available there? Is it the cleaners? Is it the shelf fillers? Who's available after the store shuts?
Well, there is a management team on site throughout the night. So there are managers, there are team leaders, there are people who are responsible, as you say, for cleaning. There are people who are replenishing the shelves. If that panic button gets hit, I suspect it won't be more than 20 seconds before people are in the petrol filling station.
There's always a night manager at site. So the night manager can be the duty manager during the night, and then if the PFS has any issues, they just press a button or call. The night manager can pop over to deal with any issues. It won't take long for them to appear if needed.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I've got one further question. It's a very minor technical question relating to your application. And I'll just find the page, apologies. It is page 11. Just to clarify, section 7 of 21 there. You didn't indicate either way for provision of films. I assume that you wish to put a no in there.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. That clears that up. And for the benefit of the committee, just to confirm again, because we'll make a determination shortly. So just to confirm again, the store currently shuts. The main store currently shuts at 10 o'clock Monday to Saturday and 4 o'clock on a Sunday. The petrol station, it's the intention to close, to continue to close at 10:30 Monday to Saturday and 9 o'clock in the evening, that is, on Sunday. Is that correct?
That is what is happening at the moment, but obviously we'd like the flexibility to have the same hours as existed for the rest of the store moving forward.
Okay, so are there any plans in place at the moment to open the store or the petrol station longer than the hours you've stated?
Not, well, I mean, as I said, we traded longer at Christmas, and it is very much demand-led. There isn't a Morrison's store that I can think of nationwide that doesn't have at least a 6 till midnight license.
Okay, thank you. And finally, item number 6 on page 25 of the conditions and your response to the licensing objectives. Item 6 is about the CCTV. You've stated in there that it'll be made available to the police. Will this also be made available to Norwich City Council as the licensing authority?
Yes. I mean, these conditions are, as I say, cut and pasted straight out of the existing premises license. There is no difficulty saying that footage will be made available to officers of the responsible authorities or just the police, if you'd rather.
Okay,
or the police and officers of Norwich City Council, authorised officers.
Thank you. So yes, okay. So in this case, you're offering that as an amendment to your condition number 6. If that's what you would like, there is no difficulty with that. Well, it's your application. That if you're offering that, then we'll take it now.
Well, I can offer it. There you go. If you change that to police and authorised officers of the licensing authority.
Okay, thank you, David. You'll note that.
Noted. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to everybody. We'll make our determination now. So we'll ask Leonie, please. Oh, apologies, Richard. You'd like an opportunity to for a closing statement.
I would, if that's all right.
Yeah,
it is in the process, and there's stuff. David very helpfully referred to the Home Office guidance in his advice to you. But if I can just start with 2 more paragraphs, and funnily enough, the one that I want to start with is where your agenda finishes, as far as paragraph 10 of the Home Office guidance is concerned. We get to paragraph 10.14 in your agenda, that's on page 34. But what I'd like to just refer you to is paragraph 10.15 of the Home Office guidance. And what it says is this: shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises at any times when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons, and I emphasize good because I'll come back to that, based on the licensing objectives for restricting those hours. And the second part of the Home Office guidance to which I would like to refer you appears at page 32, and it's numbered 9.42, which says the authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what it is intended to achieve. So evidence-based, and of course, as an experienced committee, you know that that comes straight out of the Thwaites case, where Her Honour Mrs. Justice Black said applications needs to be determined on the basis of real evidence. We don't determine applications on the basis of concerns, suppositions, or guesswork. What might happen? Because of course, anything might happen. What we go on is real evidence. So against that backdrop, against paragraph 1015 and the good reasons based on the licensing objectives, against the backdrop that we need to be evidence-based, we need to look to see whether there is any evidence that it might be necessary to limit the trading of the hours of the petrol filling station, because I think that's where we've got to. So is there any evidence in front of you at all that allowing alcohol sales in a Morrison's petrol filling station has caused any problems at all? No, there isn't. Is there any evidence whatsoever of the sale of age-restricted products at this petrol filling station causing any difficulty whatsoever? And no, there isn't. The evidence that we've got is that this is a good operator who works with the police with policies and procedures to ensure that there is no problem. Now, that is cold hard fact. That is evidence. We have an operator with an unblemished track record and a store about whom nobody has complained. Again, cold hard fact, evidence. Councillor Graham very, very kindly said, management are very, very good indeed. There is no evidence that Morrison's sells alcohol anything other than responsibly. And of course, it will continue to do so in the filling station, which is nothing more than the satellites to the main store. And there is no objection from the responsible authorities. And the position of the police here is absolutely crucial, because Councillor Graham's concerns are all about crime and disorder and antisocial behaviour. But the police do not support those concerns. The police have no objection to this application. And if we just have a quick look at the top of page 30, paragraph 2.1 of the Home Office guidance, the licensing authority should look to the police as their main source of advice on crime and disorder. Your main source of advice in this case is that there is no difficulty with the proposal. So that's all evidence. That's all good evidence. There is no evidence about restricting hours. There is no basis upon which the hours should be restricted. This store already has a midnight license. There is no evidence to suggest restricting the hours is proportionate or appropriate in these circumstances. All of the objection that we've heard, all of the concerns that we heard are just that. They are concerns. There's no evidence that the effect of allowing Morrison's to sell the odd bottle of wine would cause any difficulty whatsoever. And therefore, there's no basis upon which we can reach a conclusion that the grant would have an adverse effect on the licensing objectives. So in all of the circumstances, I'd invite you to grant the application subject to the conditions that already exist on the premises license and the one agreed with the police, and ask me to file an amended plan without that red line around the site. Just pausing with one last thought. If you determine this application by imposing restricted hours on the petrol filling station, you have made a finding of fact on the evidence that you've heard today that that is necessary and appropriate to support the licensing objectives. And in my respectful submission, and I understand Leslie's concerns, I really do, there is no evidence to support that finding of fact. So there you go. I know when it's time to shut up because I start to repeat myself. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Okay, thank you for that. Just a point of clarity now. I understand. I heard Leslie, Councillor Graham, state that the management was the management of the site was good or done well, rather than very, very good.
Okay.
Apart from that, I think I thank you for your summing up. One last chance for anyone to speak. I'm not seeing any indications. So what we'll do now is we'll invite members of the public, the applicant, to another room, and we'll go off into our room. We'll have our deliberation and come back, I would suggest, with a comfort break that we have around 20-25 minutes. So if we round it up to 12 o'clock, please, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, Chair, I'm just going to place you all into the breakout room for you in deliberation, and everyone else back into the waiting room, and then I'll readmit you. And then if someone could just send me an email when you're done with
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you, Leonie.
Hi, Chair. We are still live, and I'll just readmit the applicant. We have lost Mr. Zamola, just for your information.
Okay, so does that mean that the applicant won't be coming back, just Mr. Taylor?
It may be that he was called into another meeting. I don't know, but I'm sure Mr. Taylor will be able to.
Yep. Okay, so just to confirm, we're still live on YouTube. Okay, thank you.
Right.
That means I don't have to wait for a reconnection. Okay, do we have everybody back?
We do, except Mr. Zamola.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, are you okay to continue? Are we?
He's just rejoining.
Okay.
I'm sorry. If we could just give him a minute. Obviously, if he doesn't manage it, then of course we're fine. I'll pass it on to him. But he said, I've got a message from him. I've just been thrown out. I don't want to rejoin and gate crash the councillors' private deliberations. Oh, here he is. He's here now.
He's coming back. That's fine. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're still live on YouTube, and it's licensing subcommittee for Norwich City Council, Wednesday, 19th of January 2022. The committee has reached its decision on the application for grant of a premises licence at Morrison's Store and Petrol Filling Station, Albion Way, Norwich. The decision is to grant the licence. It's a unanimous decision to grant the licence as submitted with the amendments to the plan and item 6 on the submitted conditions. David will go through the details of that and the review and the appeal process in a moment. Just before that, I'll just remind members of the public that with all applications for licenses, there is a review process. So if anything does go wrong with this particular license, there is a review process should any of the licensing objectives not be met as a result of this being in place. Again, I'll hand over to David for the details, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So this is a summary of the reasons for the decision to grant. Committee has noted the police have no outstanding concerns and give significant weight to the police views as the council's, the licensing authority's main source of advice on the crime or disorder licensing objective. In addition, in practical terms, the hours already exist, and this is an extension to the petrol station of what's there already. Committee cannot find evidence to support any necessity, appropriateness for imposed conditions or a reduction in the hours sought. These are well-run premises. The history of Morrison's site in general, and this site in particular, as presented to this committee, indicates that the premises are working well and in accordance with the licensing objectives. The committee notes the Section 182 statutory guidance, especially as to the concerns regarding behaviour of the public, noting the behaviour of members of the public when outside the control of the premises licence holder is a matter for personal responsibility. The applicant's operating methods appear to mitigate concerns regarding persons drunk being served. Alcohol has been sold from this site for some time now, the site being the store. No reviews have taken place, no prosecutions, and it's next to a football ground, so it has been under stress, as it were, with football crowds, but without problems arising. So, as I say, unanimous decision to grant. There is a request for a new plan. And as to appeals, any person making a relevant representation who would like to suggest this is the wrong decision and a different decision should have been made in whole or in part, may do so by writing to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of receipt of written notification of the decision appealed against. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to reiterate, we did consider the concerns of Councillor Graham and acknowledge that there are issues in the area, regardless of this application. But if those issues are increased as a result of this application, members of the public can bring that evidence to the licensing team with a view to having a review. Councillors can also do that, and of course we'll hear from the police if there's an issue. So it's in the interest of the applicant to make this work. With that, unless there are any questions from the applicant or agent, thank you very much everyone for attending. That is the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll get the plan to Maxine in the next few hours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
very much.
your time this morning.